Hi everyone, grace to you and peace. Good job keeping up with your reading. Whether you're a little ahead or maybe even a little bit behind right now, it is okay. And if you are up to date, later this week, you'll have completed a quarter or 25% of the Bible. So keep up the good work. I had an email this week that said it was hard to read Joshua with all that is going on in the world, especially in Ukraine. It was expressed that it seems like Joshua is doing the same thing as Putin. And well, honestly, I don't really have a satisfactory answer for that. I struggle with all the violence and killing in Joshua and other parts of the Old Testament as well. It is hard to justify that the God who loves all people enough to send God's Son will also order all the men, women, children, and even livestock killed. So I neither defend nor dismiss the way these stories are told. The Israelites did what they felt God calling them to do. They felt it was important to focus on staying pure, and that was the way they could be kept from being led astray. It was keeping their faith and their way of living pure. The people who occupied the land were evil, yes. Some say they were involved in child sacrifice to the god Moloch. So the destruction of the nations could be justified in order to wipe out evil. It has also been said that the Israelites did not completely wipe out everyone, and there were exceptions, such as Rahab and her family. In addition, just war is sometimes necessary in order to defend freedom, ensure justice, and keep other people free and alive. And that is sometimes used by some people to understand the violence in the Old Testament. You know, justifying killing is hard, especially in light of the commandment, thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not murder. By now, you won't be surprised to hear me say that we must look at the Old Testament stories in light of what we know about Jesus. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says that even being angry with someone is akin to killing. So we must look at life through the lens of Jesus. What do we know about how Jesus is calling us to live? That is how we are called to live, always. Well, by the end of Joshua, much of the land has been conquered. I showed this map the other week. We see how the land has been given to each tribe. The eastern tribes go back to the land that Moses had given them before his death. They build an altar to remind them and their ancestors who their God is, and while at first it is kind of misunderstood, after discussion and explanation, the tribes unite again. Makes me wonder if many of our problems and division in the religious world today could learn something about that story. Sometimes we just simply need to listen to each other. There may be good explanations, and while we may not agree, we may at least understand the other's point of view better and realize there are more ways than one to understand things. Both the book of Joshua and Joshua's own life end with these words. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You know, when my life is over, I want people to say of me, he was given a choice, and his choice was to follow the way of Jesus. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. We move into the book of Judges this week, and this book is best understood by looking at the cycles. Take a look at this diagram. It's better than looking at me anyway. Yeah. And Amy agrees with me on that. The first part of the cycle begins with the people serving and worshiping the Lord faithfully. Unfortunately, it doesn't last forever. Then we move to the people falling into sin and idolatry, and they fail to follow God's commands. That is followed by the people of Israel being enslaved again, just as they were in Egypt. But the people cry out to God, acknowledging their sin, begging God to save them. Then God raises up a judge. That may be Othniel, Gideon, Deborah, or Samson, or others. and the judge delivers them, and the cycle repeats while that judge is living. There are differences in the stories of the different judges, and some of them are, well, let's face it, pretty fascinating. Deborah and Gideon are very interesting people. Of course, then there's Samson, whose story is interesting, no doubt, but different. Quite frankly, he's downright promiscuous, but God uses him anyway. In reading his story, we may not find someone to emulate, but maybe in reading it, we need to rethink who God can and does use to bring people back to God. Well, let's move on to the Gospels. In the early ministry of Jesus, for many, Luke is the favorite of the four Gospels, including myself. Some of our favorite stories of Jesus are found only in Luke. Of course, there are the stories of Jesus' birth and the events of the young Jesus in the temple. They're favorites of many. And then there are a couple of favorite parables like the Good Samaritan and the Prodigal Son, which are found only in Luke. And one of my all-time favorite stories of Jesus is when, after the resurrection, he is on the road to Emmaus. Again, found only in Luke. Luke's emphases include that the gospel or good news is for everyone, Jews and Gentiles. In the genealogy of Jesus, which we will read this week, shows that Luke's genealogy takes us all the way back to Adam and actually finally back to God, because Jesus is uniquely the Son of God for everyone. Eugene Peterson concisely puts some of Luke's emphases this way. Luke is a most vigorous champion of the outsider. An outsider himself, the only Gentile in an all-Jewish cast of New Testament writers, he shows how Jesus includes those who typically were treated as outsiders by the religious establishment of the day. Women, common laborers such as shepherds, the poor. He will not countenance religion as a club. As Luke tells the story, all of us who have found ourselves on the outside looking in on life with no hope of gaining entrance, and who of us haven't felt that, now find the doors wide open, found and welcomed by God in Jesus, who in fact said, "Ask and you'll get, seek and you'll find, knock and the door will be open to you." As you read this week, can you identify some of the ways Luke tells the story of Jesus differently than Matthew and Mark did? For certain, there are a lot of similarities. That's why they are called synoptic gospels. Yet, each contains differences as well. You may want to note some of those differences. As you continue to read, remember this: Jesus is for everyone, which means Jesus is for you, and all of us are called to follow. We'll see you next week.